Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're swapping our usual deep dive into spreadsheets and software for the real thing. We're heading to the stunning beaches and the very lucrative property market of Phuket, Thailand. You know the dream? Buying a villa, a condo, that perfect investment property. It just promises sunshine, great returns, and, paradise.
It really does sound like the dream, but as anyone who's looked at property in the tropics knows, that dream can turn into a financial nightmare pretty quickly if you're only looking at the infinity pool and the ocean view.
I can imagine.
Yeah, our sources today show that beneath that fresh coat of paint, you can often find some pretty significant, expensive, and I think critically avoidable problems.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We want to give you, the listener, a shortcut to investing safely. We are basically extracting the ultimate inspection checklist.
Right.
Not just the obvious stuff, but the really crucial non-obvious things that are specific to that kind of demanding environment so you can spot those catastrophes before you sign anything.
And the source for this is so important. The credibility here is key. We are pulling these insights directly from Ocean Worldwide. They're a luxury real estate agency that's been on the ground in Phuket since 2004. I mean, the director, Sandra O'Neill, has personally helped thousands of families and investors.
Wow.
Yeah, so this isn't generic advice from a blog post. This has some serious real-world weight behind it.
That's exactly the kind of deep, specialized knowledge we look for. So here's the plan. We're going to start with the physical stuff, the structure, the hidden systems, and a deep dive into the huge issue of pests and decay in a tropical climate.
And only after we've secured the physical asset will we move on to the legal and contextual safeguards. Things like noise, zoning, all that important stuff.
Okay, let's start with the backbone of any investment. The structural integrity. I mean, when you're buying a building, you have to look past the fancy finishes and focus on what's holding it all up, right? The foundations, the walls, the roof.
Exactly, because the environment there just exacerbates everything. A tiny defect now, especially a crack that lets water in, that just accelerates decay so dramatically in that climate.
So let's talk about cracks. How do you tell the difference between something that's just, cosmetic and something that's a complete catastrophe waiting to happen?
Well, a fine hairline crack you can barely get a fingernail into. That's probably just plaster shrinkage. Annoying, but not a disaster.
Okay, and the bad ones?
The bad ones are wider, deeper, and often you'll see what are called stepped cracks, especially in brick or concrete walls. It's when you see a crack that sort of follows the mortar line in a kind of staircase pattern.
Right, I can picture that.
That is a massive red flag for differential foundation settlement. It means the ground beneath the property is moving unevenly, which points to, some really systemic instability.
That sounds like a conversation ender right there.
Yes.
And then there's water damage. In a tropical climate, that's not just a stain on the wall, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's structural erosion in progress. You need to look for any signs of dampness, mold, or bubbling and peeling paint, especially low down on walls or in places like kitchens and bathrooms. A small leak in a temperate climate is a nuisance. In the tropics, it's food for mold, it rots wood, and it corrodes any hidden steel inside the concrete.
And what about things you can feel, like floors and ceilings?
Absolutely. Sagging or bouncy floors, ceilings that seem to dip. That tells you there's a problem with the joists or beams holding them up. And if those are compromised by moisture or insects, you are looking at thousands upon thousands of dollars in major repairs. And don't forget the roof. That's your main shield against the monsoon.
You mentioned the climate accelerates everything. So say a buyer is looking at a property that's only, 5 or 7 years old. Can they probably skip a full professional structural inspection?
That's a great question, but the answer is a firm no. In a fast-developing market like Phuket, quality control can be, all over the place. Plus, the combination of humidity, salt air, and heavy monsoons puts stresses on building materials that you just don't see elsewhere. A pro can check foundations and stability in ways you simply can't.
Understood. A few years is definitely not enough assurance in that kind of environment. Let's move from the bones of the house to the hidden nerves and veins, the plumbing and electrical systems. They're behind walls, so they're easy to overlook, but I bet they cause the most headaches.
Oh, they are the biggest source of emergency repair costs. Precisely. Let's start with plumbing. It's not just about shiny taps. You have to test the water pressure, turn on all the fixtures. Low pressure across the board is a major sign of pipe issues.
And you need to actually look at the pipes themselves, too.
Yes. Look for anything that's visibly old or corroded. Our sources specifically call out older materials like galvanized steel. It's really prone to internal rust, which chokes the water flow and, eventually leads to leaks.
So, should a buyer just walk away if they see galvanized steel? Is it a deal breaker?
It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it is a massive point for negotiation. You have to budget for a future replacement because the lifespan of that material, especially with the salt in the air, is limited. It demands a specialized inspection. And also, check the drainage speed. Run water in a few sinks at once. If it's slow, you've got a blockage somewhere deep down.
Okay, now for the electrical side. Here we're talking about pure safety. All right. Faulty wiring in a humid climate is a fire hazard.
It absolutely is. I mean, think about the huge load from AC units running almost constantly. First, look at the age of the wiring. Does it look brittle or frayed? Second, look at the breaker panel. It needs to be modern, clearly labeled, and big enough to handle the power demands. If breakers are always tripping, it's a huge fire risk.
And what about grounding or earthing? I hear that's extra important in tropical spots.
It is critical. The grounding system is what gives stray electricity a safe path to the earth. In a humid place, everything is more conductive. It also protects against lightning strikes and power surges, which are really common during the monsoon season. You need a qualified electrician to verify that system.
And one system that is absolutely dominant in Phuket that we missed in our first look, the air conditioning, the HVAC units. That's a huge cost factor.
It's the single biggest energy drain and a constant maintenance cost. You have to check the condition, age, and size of the AC units. Look for signs of neglect, dirty filters, leaks, rust on the outdoor units from the salt air. A poorly maintained AC costs a fortune to run and actually makes mold problems worse inside the house.
The takeaway here seems pretty clear. Professional inspections for these hidden systems are not optional. They're a financial shield.
Exactly.
All right, let's face the realities of paradise. The specific tropical threats, termites, and flooding. These could do so much damage before you even notice them.
Termites are a constant worry. They thrive in heat and moisture, and they can completely hollow out structural wood before you see a single sign on the outside. Now, newer places often have prevention systems, but you have to verify that they are actually maintained and current.
So if you're a buyer walking through a property, what are the definitive warning signs you can spot yourself?
You're looking for 4 specific things. First, mud tubes. They're like little dirt tunnels about the width of a pencil on foundations or walls. Second, tiny pin-sized holes in wood. Third, if you tap on wood and it sounds hollow. And fourth, look for little piles of what looks like sawdust near baseboards. It's called frass. It's basically their waste.
Okay, so if you see any of that, it's not time to get a can of bug spray.
Oh, absolutely not. You need a professional pest control company that specializes in tropical termites immediately, and you have to factor that prevention into your annual budget.
And the other big environmental issue is flooding risk. I mean, Phuket isn't known for being underwater, but the rain can be intense.
Very intense. You have to understand the context of the site. Is the property in a low-lying area or on higher ground? And, critically, check the local drainage. Does it look clogged with leaves and debris, or is it well maintained?
And I love this practical tip from our source.
Yeah.
Just ask the neighbors.
It's one of the best things you can do. The neighbors have lived through the heavy rains. They'll tell you straight up how the area copes. Even better, if you can, try to see the property right after a huge downpour. You'll see for yourself how the water runs off. It saves a lot of headaches later.
Okay, we've covered the physical stuff, structure, pipes, pests. Now let's get into the vital administrative and financial safeguards. And let's start with something subjective, but so important. Noise levels.
Noise is a huge quality of life issue, and it's a major factor for rental appeal. Most people visit a property on, say, a quiet Tuesday afternoon. That gives you a totally false picture. You have to go back at different times. A quiet Tuesday versus a loud Friday or Saturday night.
And what are the specific known culprits to listen for in a place like Phuket?
Well, traffic, of course, but also noise from bars, nightclubs, even busy restaurants that operate late. And, this is a big one, listen for construction. Development can be constant, and you do not want to buy yourself 2 years of jackhammers next door.
That's a great point. Now, for the legal minefield, zoning regulations. This feels like the fastest way to turn a dream investment into a total liability.
It is the quickest way to disaster, yes. Zoning dictates what you can do with the property. Is it strictly residential? Or can you use it for commercial activity? If you buy a residential villa intending to run it as a short-term holiday rental, but the zoning prohibits that, you're setting yourself up for massive fines and legal trouble. You have to confirm the property's legal classification.
And beyond zoning, there are just basic health and safety standards, especially if you plan to have tenants.
This is fundamental. It's about landlord responsibility. Check for working smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, check their expiration dates. And in that humid climate, ventilation is key to prevent mold. And always, always check for obvious hazards, loose pool tiles, broken steps, wobbly railings. Those are huge liability risks.
Speaking of liability, let's talk insurance. I know standard home insurance doesn't usually cut it for a rental property. What are the must-haves?
You need specialized landlord insurance. 3 core things are essential. First, building cover for the physical structure. Second, landlord liability, which protects you if a guest gets hurt on the property.
Like slipping on a wet floor.
Exactly. And third, loss of rent coverage. That protects your income if the property becomes unlivable after, say, a fire or a big storm.
And for Phuket specifically, what add-ons are really essential?
If there's a pool, you absolutely need extra pool liability coverage. And given the monsoons we talked about, dedicated flood coverage is non-negotiable, especially if you're in a low-lying area.
Okay, finally, the legal shield itself. Thai property law is famously complex for foreigners. You can't just Google it.
No, you need thorough due diligence from a competent, reliable law firm. This is non-negotiable. And our sources give some really clear cost estimates for this. For a lease agreement review, you should budget between 5 and 15,000 Thai baht. For a full property purchase due diligence, which is what we recommend, it's more like 20 to 50,000 baht.
That's incredibly helpful for planning.
It is, and the cost of skipping that step is it's exponentially higher.
So when you put this all together, what does it really mean? We started with the beautiful dream of a Phuket villa, and now we have this rigorous checklist covering everything from foundation cracks to liability insurance.
It means the biggest risk in this market is making assumptions and rushing. Taking the time for this deep, multi-layered inspection, physical, legal, environmental, it's the only way to save yourself from future costs and, honestly, heartbreak. It's what transforms a pretty house into a truly secure, protected asset.
Right. This kind of preventative knowledge turns the emotional act of buying a dream home into a predictable, solid investment. You're not just buying a view, you're buying security against some very unique challenges.
And that security is exactly what specialists in this market provide. We want to say again that all these insights, this expert advice, it's derived from the team at Ocean Worldwide. They're a leading luxury agency in Phuket, directed by Sandra O'Neill. They live and breathe this stuff every day.
So if you're looking to start your own property journey in Thailand and you need more detailed information, you can visit their site directly. That's oceanwwp.com.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
They catch you on the next one.